welcome to episode 7 to meet the author of We Choose Joy. Cynthia was part of this wonderful anthology with 22 women, and I would like to introduce her to everyone and ask her a few questions and get to know her better. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I am Cynthia Primm, and yes, I am one of the authors in this anthology. Pleased, thrilled to have been a part of such a great group of women. I'd like to say, if people say, describe yourself, I'm a poet, a mother, an author, all those roles that we all play. I'm also the founder and curator of Women Beyond Breaking, and author of 2 other books prior to this one being published, all in the kind of encouraging women realm.
I love that. And we'll include all the links to her other books and her group, whatever she wants to share out. But what else would you like to share about yourself? Or we'll just lead into the what made you decide to be a part of this anthology?
Well, I think the really interesting thing about this anthology is I often find that you really know when you know something is in your path on purpose. And my second book is called I Found My Joy. And so when I met Linda for the first time, the curator of this book, she was talking to me about it, and she didn't know I was an author, and she didn't even really know much about me. And when she said the title, I pulled out my book and showed it to her, and we kind of chuckled. And honestly, there was an instant connection, and really there's been an instant connection really with all the women, which I always have found so encouraging, really, because we're all on a journey right together. So I couldn't wait to be part of it, actually, and thrilled to have been.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that about your story of how you already had like a title with joy in it. Yes, you were definitely led. All right, can you tell us a little bit about your chapter? Any takeaways, any messages that you want to share?
Sure. So I started developing what I call the construct for sustaining contentment, that I included in my chapter. And I guess it really was me kind of coaching myself and trying to really determine, as I aged and learned and grew in wisdom, what are the things that we really control? And for me, I realized that where I lived was important. So for that example, I would say I always wanted to live by the water. I lived by a small little pond when I was in Florida. And when I got the job offer here in Erie and I came to interview, it's a big lake here. And so it checked that box. So my goal is always to live where I love now, because I can control that. Loving what I do. I have my feet, one planted in the corporate world and one planted in this woman's work that we're all doing. But I do love what I do, and I've been doing it for a long time. Loving who I love right now, that's a blank, unless you count my cat. But that is important as well, and feeling at peace in that relationship, and then loving myself. So those 4 things are actually the things that I control, that we all control. And sometimes if you can just hang on to even one of those and say, but I am loving where I live, or I am loving what I do. Those are the things I think that can be a really strong foundation for sustaining contentment, not necessarily happiness, but contentment, knowing there's that foundation that you've built for yourself so that you can continue to move forward. So that's really what I wrote the chapter on, is wanting women to know, in choosing joy, there are some things you can do that can really build that foundation for you.
I love that. I love the word foundation and knowing that we have a choice, knowing that we are in control, control what we can control and let the rest fall to whatever it needs to fall into. But I think so often, women especially, we feel out of control in a lot of situations. We didn't grow up a lot of times with permission that we have choices on a lot of levels. And so I loved your chapter. It was very empowering. That was the word that kept coming up in my mind as I was reading it. I was like, this is about empowerment. Like, just keep going. You've got this. You've got this. Well, since you are already an author, this
Mhm.
question is, do you have any future books that are stirring around? And if you were invited to another anthology, would you participate in another one of those as well? So it's a two-part question.
I absolutely would participate in another anthology. If it was geared towards helping women on their journey, I would absolutely be part of another anthology. It was interesting. I looked, and my first book I wrote in 2009, then my second was in 2022. This book, being part of We Choose Joy, was 2023. So I'm like, 2024, I wonder what I'm supposed to do. So I certainly have a lot left in me to say. Most of my work is in poetry. So I've always got a body of work that flows through me. So I think there's probably another book on the horizon.
Ooh, I can't wait. Especially like if you were ever part of a poetry anthology, where women shared, I like ideas come up in these interviews, but possibly there's an anthology with other poets where share a similar message or different messages or whatever. But I think that would be a really neat anthology as well, a whole chapter of poetry. So just a few ideas stirred up in there. All right. Well, is there any other thing you would love to share with your listeners? Any other messages? Anything else that you want to share about your chapter, or anything about being an author or sharing in a space where you are loving on women? Any other messages?
Yes, for sure. So I would like to talk about Women Beyond Breaking because it really is my heart. And so that is my online community. It's called Women Beyond Breaking. And it is intended to be a place where women are committed to equipping, encouraging, and empowering each other to move beyond brokenness and to live beyond breaking. And I always say to folks, women break. And my website designer was a gentleman, and he's like, I don't know, how about Women Beyond? Breaking so negative. And I said, why don't you ask your wife?
Yeah.
I said, women know we break. We're like that clay vessel that holds so much and just keep breaking to accommodate the things that come our way. And so I think we all identify with that. And so, if anything, I would want your listeners to know that we're all on a journey and we're all in different places on
Mhm.
that journey. And that's what makes this book, We Choose Joy, and the community of women there, my community, Women Beyond Breaking, those communities are communities that, really let you know you're not alone. There is hope. We can do this together. You don't have to be alone. That you are enough.
Mhm.
And so, certainly that would be something that I would want to share, both from the platform of the book and the community that I've founded. And just encourage women. My two books really are about my journey, from very tough beginnings, which was the I'll Trade My Sorrow part. That's the first book, and that is about a young girl looking for love in every other place she can think of, but inside. And it runs from the time the young girl was 12 till she was 40. Fast forward to 50s, not saying which 50. And you've got, I found my joy. And I would just want your listeners to know you can find your joy too. So if you're on that journey and you feel like it's fleeting, you feel like you're not sure you're going to get there, you can. We all can. We all have. And we'll all be there for each other if we fall.
I love that. And, something that comes up in a lot of groups with women is that we're stronger together. Humanity was created to be in tribes and to work together. And over time, we've, separated from like our tribes. And a
Yes.
lot of times, the way we live is very isolating. And it's getting back to that, well, I want this, like kind of in the back of your head, I want this, but why do I want this? Because this isn't the norm anymore. And it's because it's truly in our DNA, that desire to come together and process life together, you know, even if we're not completely doing life together, but process it and support each other. And so I really love your messages. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, you know, we all know that when we want to ground ourselves, if we call a girlfriend,
Mhm.
we will all of a sudden be reminded who we are.
Yes.
And it's just a very instant thing. For some reason, with girlfriends, we're just expected to be who we are. And all the other roles we play in our lives are wonderful roles, but they're roles. You know, there are very few times we get to just be. And I found with some very strong girlfriends, some strong counselors, that happens. I mean, it happens certainly with my family. But I still have a couple of hats I wear there, and I like when I get to take my hat off. So,
Oh, that's like the perfect place to end this. So thank you. That was amazing. All right. Well, thank you for listening to episode 7. And thank you, Cynthia, for letting me chat with you. And I look forward to all of the sharing of your books and your community. So thank you so much.
well, thank you.